Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. If you are a director, a VP, a senior IC who knows that your next move should be bigger than it's been, or you're an aspiring leader trying to figure out how to make the jump, how to pivot, I want you to stay with me. This is for you. I'm going to walk you through exactly what it takes to actually be in a role that brings you joy. So, a couple of ground rules. I am going to be unfiltered. I am going to talk about things that you may not want to hear, but I'm going to be very honest with you because you deserve honesty. There's a lot of fluffy advice out there that strokes people's egos or is clickbait and rage bait. I'm going to be talking to you from experience, from actually running a coaching practice for more than 6 years and coaching more than 1,000 clients, all the way to the C-level, senior individual contributors, directors, VPs, and C-level. Okay, so here's the core claim. You've been describing yourself by what you execute. I see this all the time. It's almost like we wrap our whole identity by our title and the things that we like, the tangible tactics, the nitty-gritty of what we do at work. And we don't take a step back and we don't realize the magnitude of what we deliver. So here's a trap that most senior leaders are in right now. You have been describing yourself by what you execute, and your resume is a list of things that you've been executing on. Your LinkedIn heading is an execution label. Director of this, VP of that. And when someone asks you, what do you do? Who are you as a professional? What is your identity as your professional? You start rattling all of the things that you execute at work and they get lost. Look, that worked to get you to where you are, right? Anything below director level is execution heavy. And every level rewarded you for how well you did the thing. Now, the more senior that you get, the better executor you become, and that became your entire identity. And like I said, that works up to the director level, sort of. Not even, actually. Right below director level, that works. But if you want to move up, if you want to break that ceiling, you need to act differently. Okay? So here's the problem that I want to share in terms of AI, because there's a lot of noise in terms of, oh my God, AI is going to take our job, blah, blah, blah. Here's the honest truth as someone who comes from a product background, as someone who talks to a lot of, product executives. If you are the type of person who is simply an executor and takes orders, this is what AI is going to flatten, okay? I want you to think about it from the perspective of when you use ChatGPT or Claude, right? Claude is really good at executing, at taking your ideas and executing on them. I mean, gosh, I built an incredible landing page using Claude. I'm not a coder, but I just gave Claude the strategy and it executed on it. So the things that used to take a week are now taking someone with a chat interface 2 hours. That's happening right now in every single function. So if you've been tying your whole identity to, if I work hard, if I deliver more, I'm going to move up, guess what? You're not going to move up. You're going to get eliminated because your performance is not measured now through your ability to consume information or to do more work, especially if it is simple work that AI can automate. You are measured by your ability to be a visionary, to see things that not a lot of people see. Because guess what AI is? AI tends to aggregate. AI tends to take information that is out there in the market and basically execute on it. But if it is a new idea, then it's very difficult. And the idea actually and the vision and the strategy needs to come from you in order for AI to be able to execute on it. So in order to move up in this market, you need to develop your visionary skills. Vision is what nobody else can see from where they're standing. What does being a visionary mean? It's being able to use your imagination. Think of Walt Disney. He was ahead of his time. He was able to imagine Disney World when there was no such thing and no such amusement park. And that's a type of skill that, unfortunately, if you don't exercise, it disappears. So let me give you an example. One of my clients, who actually is a CEO of a company, he was known for many years as the agile guy. He built a consultancy on it, and by the time he came to me, he was done being the agile guy. But every inbound, every referral, every conversation, he was still getting pulled into agile work because the agile label was doing all the talking. So when I worked with him, in order for him to basically break through that ceiling, just like you want to break through your ceiling. And ceiling, by the way, is not just about moving up a level. It could be pivoting into a more exciting industry, right? Because your industry might be more outdated, might be saturated, might no longer bring you joy. And so what you want to do in order to break through that stagnation is you want to break out of the box that people have put you in, okay? So in this situation, this CEO, he wanted to break out of the box and the stereotype that he is the agile guy. So after we worked together and I did a lot of workshops with him and his partners and at his organization, he started seeing that he was interested in getting into AI. And he saw how AI is about to blow up every assumption baked into agile frameworks. Here's the kicker. He almost went into, transformation culture work. Why? Because that's what he's known and that's what he's done. And culture was a topic that he could claim without having, to stake a bigger claim. It felt like a safer topic that he's been doing. And what required him to actually get out of that box is to have a vision for himself that is different, use his imagination to see a world where he's not an agile and he's delivering AI transformation work. So the thing about being a visionary that scares a lot of people in their career, you may be a visionary in your work, but you might not be a visionary in your own career. And the thing about being a visionary in your own career is that you need to be specific about what you see for yourself. And that is very scary. This is why I get a lot of leaders tell me, oh my God, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I don't want to choose something. I am going to have a spreadsheet for every company that I worked for and have multiple columns that map to different roles that I want to apply to. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, that is so much work. And why are you even doing it? Do you even enjoy, those different paths that you're creating for yourself? Are you simply extracting them from what's possible versus what you would enjoy? So that's a danger. And this is why people get stuck in their career, because your heart is not into it. And this is why in a lot of consultation calls, when people come to me We talk about making that change, and then they chicken out from making that change, because when you don't have a clear vision that is exciting for you, and in your head you keep telling yourself it's not possible to get there, then of course you're not going to want to do anything about it. Okay? This is why a lot of athletes will tell you that they have to visualize themselves with a specific goal, whether it's winning a race or winning a medal, for them to actually go outside and run for 45 minutes a day, or however they need to train for the marathon or for the Olympics, right? But the ones who win are able to clearly visualize themselves in that destination. And so that is what is required of you. Most of you do what a lot of people out there do, which is you pick a safe role, whatever it is. It's very vague and high level, something like I'm a transformation leader, or I'm an operations leader, or whatever it is, and you're hiding inside it, because getting crystal clear and specific on that vision is scary. And you're scared of maybe, recruiters not believing you, or feeling like you have to prove yourself, or not knowing how to describe it, right? And that's why you avoid it. If this resonates with you so far, I truly would love it if you participate in the conversation. It is so weird for me to sit here and speak and look at a screen. I would love to hear from you, whether you're listening now or you're listening later and listening to the replay. I would love to hear your thoughts about this concept of being a visionary in your career. And if it's something that you struggle with, and why. Okay, so let us say that you decide that you want to make a change in your career. You're serious about it because you're fed up. Frankly, you're tired of doing your boss's work and not getting paid for it. And you could do your boss and your boss's work better than them. And so you put your foot down and you tell yourself, you know what, screw this. I don't care what everyone is saying about the market. I need to make a change because I have 10, 15 years left in my career, and I want to do what brings me joy, and I want to do this right. I don't want to just land any role. So what I feel the mistake that people make when we figure this out is they get so hung up on the what. I want to, they'll say something vague like, I want to work at a Series B, or I want to work at a $10 million organization or a $1 billion organization, and I want to join something mission driven, or I want to, move it into climate, whatever that vague thing is. The thing is, though, thinking about that is not specific enough. You need to think about the problems that bring you joy solving. But even a deeper layer than that, I want you to think about who you want to serve and who you want to work with. And from my experience, a lot of people don't spend enough time thinking about that. And this is why they end up working with senior leaders who don't align with their values, who butt heads with them, and that you just don't enjoy working with. I feel that we are in the day and age, in this day and age, where the human aspect of working is more driven by the types of interactions that you enjoy. It's actually because everything else, it'll get to the point where everything else can be delegated to AI to execute on. So this is again why it's important to work on your strategic skills. Now, part of being a good strategist is actually being a good communicator and a storyteller. And this is something that I teach my clients. This isn't just a skill set that I work on with my clients to identify their ideal role, to market themselves. This is also a skill set that I teach my clients to communicate internally, to be able to lead and influence. I have an example of two clients who were able to do this effectively. Had a client who said to me that she went to this, networking event within her organization, and the VP approached her. She asked the VP some questions around his vision for the organization and the gap in terms of helping them get there. And she was able to actually use her storytelling skills to demonstrate that she's actually been doing that work and she would be the right fit for that role. And so the VP came back to her and said, I want you to write your own job posting for this role. And she came to me and she said, oh my God, my hands are shaking. I can't believe this is happening. And I said, yes, this is what happens when you become a visionary in your career versus you're at the mercy of what job postings are and dealing with all these stupid tactical things like, oh my God, I need to put in keywords. I need to break through the ATS. A lot of people are going that path because they're not comfortable with communicating. They're not comfortable with having personal interactions, and they hide behind the computer. And it's going to become a rarer skill because this is always the downside of technology. I don't know if you guys have seen the patterns, right? When the internet launched, right? When social media launched, there's a rapid decline of people's ability to interact with each other and connect and build relationships. And so if you're able to differentiate yourself in that aspect, you are going to be someone who is in demand. Okay, so now some of you aren't dodging because you haven't started looking for a career or doing the work of identifying what your career direction. You probably already have an idea of what your career direction is, what you want to move into, what you want to pivot into. But then there's this voice that kicked in. Oh my God, but what if the right role comes from a different direction? What if I'm closing off myself? What if I'm limiting myself? I should keep my options open. So what do? You widen. You make the spreadsheet. Column A, is this role? Column B is that role? Column C, and let me, tailor a pitch for each column. And you tell yourself that you're being strategic by doing that. You tell yourself that you're being pragmatic by doing that, but you actually aren't. You're hedging. Every column is a version of you with the edges sanded off, with you watered down to please whatever recruiters out there. And the irony is, just like a brand that is not strong and has conviction in its own, values and who they want to target, when a brand is watered down, when a brand is trying to appeal to the mass market, its value declines. Think of like the top luxury brands like Ferrari, like Burberry, whatever fancy brands, you're into, right? Do you think those brands market themselves so that they're for everyone? No, they're very selective. They're very selective about who they want to attract. And this is why they demand higher prices. And so when you make yourself available to everything, then you're just a commodity. And so I want you to think about that as well. And this is why, again, it is very important to be very clear in your career direction. And I will tell you that 90% of you listening, even if you say to me, I'm clear, you're not. You're not specific enough. And this is why you get opportunities that are lower than your level. And this is why, this is part of the reason why you're not getting promoted. Okay? This is positioning 101. This is differentiation. What does differentiation mean? What does it mean when we say that you need to differentiate yourself? You need to be different. You can't be like everyone else. It needs to be beyond saying, this is my title. There's a billion other people on LinkedIn who have the same title. Why would they pick you and not them? Okay. Another thing I wanted to say about the difficulty in terms of making the move in an AI market. Over-reliance on the AI buzzwords and not being specific enough in your language and not being able to describe your work or describe yourself as the professional that you want to be. So I'll give you an example. I have a client who spent 20 years in hospitality. Hotels, food, beverage, operations. He knew that world inside out. And he wanted to move into, after we did all of the work, he realized that, he's done traveling. And so after a lot of conversations, we decided that the new direction is going to be property management. Not hospitality adjacent, but real property management. Totally different industry, totally different, regulations. And on paper, the leap looked absurd. But when we went into what he's been doing and imagined, and we got him to imagine himself in property management versus hospitality, we were able to create a different narrative, different language to help a recruiter understand that what he has been doing is actually property management. That is a deep level work that needs to be done. And the mindset block is, I can't imagine myself doing that work. Even when you tell yourself that I can do it, you can't imagine yourself. And so no matter how many times you prompt ChatGPT or prompt Claude, it's not going to sound like the person or the role or the leadership role that you want to get into. Okay. So what do you actually do? You need to stop trying to plan your move just based on title and industry and all of these things. You need to dig deeper. You need to dig deeper into who you are and who you want to be and what type of lifestyle you want to have. We need to dig deeper into your career story. We need to look at the patterns. We need to look at the truth of what you've done. We need to look at things that, didn't bring you joy over and over and over again. For example, I have a client in the aerospace industry, and he has been pigeonholed for a very long time as the people leader and the trainer. Yet he comes from a very technical background. And so After seeing all the patterns, we discovered that what actually brings him joy is being accountable for those business outcomes by creating the right systems for people. You see how nuanced that is? We would not have arrived into that conclusion until we went deep. Now, it's very difficult for you to figure that out and see those patterns because you're inside the jar, and it's very difficult to read the label when you're on the inside. And what you need is a human being, because the human being like me who's going to look at all the patterns on the inside is not going to be like AI. That human being is going to pay attention to the emotions that are behind all of the things that you've done in your career. They're going to pay attention to when your voice gets excited when you talk about something. That's something that AI is not going to notice. When there's that glimmer in your eyes, when you tell me about a memory that you had at work, that's something that, again, AI is not going to notice. So these nuances are what's going to help you get there. And together, we stretch your ability to imagine yourself and become a visionary in your career. And guess what? That muscle is also very much transferable to the initiatives that you end up leading, because as a leader, you need to be able to imagine what would happen after that initiative gets executed. Where is your company going to be? What is the aftermath? What is the outcome? It's kind of meta what I teach people, because that skill set can be applied to any area of your life. And it is a big factor of being able to be an amazing leader who can lead, who can drive, and who can shape entire ecosystems. All right. So for the aspiring leaders, the senior individual contributors, the directors, the VPs who want to make a move, I want you to think about this. If you're still trying to prove that you can execute, you're running a race everyone in the room is running, and you might not be able to reach the end line, right? The destination. The people who get promoted to lead are the ones who are able to describe the things that people have trouble describing. And that is being part of being a visionary. So if this landed with you, you know where to find me. I love helping people realize that dream of where they could be in their career. I actually had 3 clients who landed roles recently who navigated amazing pivots. I told you about the client who is a leader, more than 20 years of experience in, hey, David, how's it going? And Jay, wow. That's a thing. Sorry, I missed that part. Tell me what your question is, and I will gladly answer it. What was I saying? Yeah, I have a few wins. I know a lot of people are skeptical. Oh, the market is bad, blah, blah, blah. But I've actually had 3 clients who landed roles recently and navigated very big pivots. One of them is from the world of academia. She was an assistant professor, and she wanted to break into corporate tech. She landed at Geico, actually. And I'm not going to give more detail than that because I value my client's privacy. Another client of mine that I told you about pivoted from hospitality to property management after more than 20 years in hospitality. A third client of mine, she went from individual contributor to director of product. And then actually a fourth one, she landed a director of product within healthcare. So this is the exact process that they went through. Yes, write your own job posting. Oh my God, Jay. that is an exercise that I actually get my clients to do. And in this specific situation with this client that I told you that I told you all about, her boss, well, her skip level boss, encouraged her to write her own job posting. This isn't actually the first situation where I see this. Another client of mine who reached out to me on Sunday said to me that initially she applied to a senior manager role. And after the conversation during the interview, and yeah, we prepped very well in terms of how she would position herself and communicate her leadership skills. They came back and redesigned the role for her so that it would be at the director level. That's the power of showing up as a leader in your interviews versus just following the orders, and being part of the herd. When you learn how to communicate effectively and when you're very clear about what you want and can articulate it so well, doors open for you, whether it's during interviews or networking conversations. Okay, here's the thing. If you are curious about working with me, I want to save us all time and tell you guys about the types of clients that are generally a fit working with me and clients where it's just misaligned. If you're the type of person who likes to blame the economy and who keeps blaming everything externally and feels like there's nothing that you need to change that's within your control, you and I are definitely not a fit, because I only work with clients who are high achievers, and I find that high achievers take accountability and ownership. The second thing that I look for when it comes to clients is if you're the kind of person who's bogged down by all the tactical stuff like the application tracking system and resume templates, and that's all that you're looking for, and you want something quick and dirty where you just, have someone write a resume for you. I mean, you might as well just use ChatGPT if that's what you want, right? But if you're the kind of person who wants to do the soul searching, who wants to truly be strategic about your career, you want to actually imagine what your career is going to look like a year from now, not just take a job for the sake of a job. Because, hey, if you're at the director or VP level, or even if you want to get to the director level, maybe you've been operating at the director level, but you've never been given the title, then you absolutely should not just, think about taking any job, right? I mean, how many years do you have left in your career? Do you want to just keep hopping around? Do you want to just keep being miserable? Do you want to just keep repeating your situation? That's like building a building without doing the feasibility analysis, without setting the foundation, without, thinking about all the structural issues, right? The building's going to fall. So there's a lot of strategic work and foundational work that needs to be done. Yeah, the game has changed. It's not who you know anymore. It's who knows you. But guess what? For people to know you, I mean, think about why you're all sitting here listening to me, right? At 9 p.m. on a Monday. It's because I built a very strong brand and my messaging is on point. If you want people to know you, and if you want people to trust you, and if you want people to gravitate towards you, you need to be able to trust yourself and not be afraid to share your unique point of view. And a lot of that comes from self-awareness of who you are, and trying to go back and study all the patterns in your career in order for people to perceive you the right way. I find that a lot of people who don't get the roles they want is because there's a disconnect between how they see themselves and how people on the outside see them, especially if they don't have context. They're not with you, watching you at organizations, delivering the work you do. But the irony is also a lot of people, they've been sort of doing the work subconsciously that they haven't been realizing the magnitude of what they've done. Another example that I'll give you all, had a client, he's so in his mind, the type of work that he was doing was business development. But when we sat down and we looked at his entire career, the guy's charismatic. The guy can light up any room. He is so good at building partnerships with organizations. That's a superpower. He can build an entire ecosystem of partnerships with government entities and all kinds of organizations, and that's his sweet spot. And he didn't realize the significance of how important that is. Companies need that skill if they want to expand to a new market. When you're a company trying to expand to a new market and you don't know the rules, you don't know even where to begin, you don't know how to hire people, you need someone like that, and that can triple, quadruple your revenue. But he was not able to describe it this way. He was taking his experience for granted. And when you don't realize the significance of what you've done and you take it for granted, describe it with small words, then the people on the outside are going to take you for granted. They're not going to take you seriously. And then you're not going to be able to enter into the right rooms. And then the right people are not going to know who you are. Okay? So that's the gist of it. Okay. If you're in a situation where you feel you're stagnant, you feel you deserve more, you're not there just to collect a paycheck, you actually want to take pride in your craft, then we could be the right fit working together. If you're the kind of person who just wants quick tactics and a band-aid solution, a 15-minute call is not going to help you with me. You're going to want to work with me in a longer duration. But obviously, we need to get to know each other first to figure out if we're the right fit. So how do you book a call with me? Very, very simple. If you go on my LinkedIn profile, let me show you here. I'm going to share my screen. So let's see here. So this is my LinkedIn profile. Very simple. Click on the book an appointment button. When you click on that, it's going to take you to this page. I highly encourage you to watch the video because it's going to give you context in terms of who I am and what I do. Okay? So that's what I encourage you to do. And then you can click on the book your career diagnosis button. Go through this 2-minute intake so that I can understand your goals and why it's important to you. And then once you do that, it's going to take you to my calendar page so that we can have a conversation and we can do a vibe check in terms of whether we could be a right fit or not. All right. Now, if this has been useful, you really enjoyed this, you enjoyed the Nada show at 9:16 p.m. on a Monday, I would really appreciate it if you like this video. What that does is it encourages me to have more of these because I know that not every single person is going to be able to work with me. And so I want to make this information accessible in order to help more people, because that is my big why too. I love creating an impact on people's careers. I want people to be happy in their career. As someone who is not very happy in the corporate world for 15 years. So if you've benefited from this in any shape or form, if it inspired you, if it lit the fire, underneath you, if it gave you hope, then please take a minute. It's free, it's free to actually like this video. Also, if you are a superhero and you want to create even more good in this world, then repost this video, because guess what? Someone in your connections is going to be able to see it. Now, if you're watching this in the middle and you want to see what else I said at the beginning, you can just click. I will end the live soon, and you can just click and watch from the beginning. Okay, I hope you all have a very joyful Monday, friends. Be visionaries in your career. No one is gonna, no one is gonna live your life for you. So make the best out of it. And your career is a big aspect of your life. It's tied to your livelihood. It's tied to your compensation, which drives the quality of your life. It impacts your mental health. Um, there's a lot of studies that show that, when people are not happy in their career, it creates a lot of health issues. I know that I had a lot of health issues because I wasn't happy in my career. So take it seriously. Don't just go to work and not think about these things. All right. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.